Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Winsight Live. A couple of stories that are new on Winsight Grocery Business I'll talk about before I kick it over to Phil Lempert. For something that we reported first in the industry, Kroger is partnering with the technology startup Caper on a souped up shopping cart in one of its Cincinnati stores. This is a shopping cart that can weigh items. It can provide wayfinding for shoppers. They can integrate it with their loyalty card, shop and check out using the cart. So rather than, for example, refitting an entire store with cameras and shelf mounted things, this is one vehicle to you know, checkout free shopping, which is, obviously been identified as one of the consumers' biggest pain points of grocery. And of course, taken on a lot more import with the pandemic and worries about virus transmission at the checkout lane. Kroger is sort of downplaying the significance of it. It's making certain that it's a one store test at this time. It's apparently been running in Cincinnati since some October of this year. However, it's worth keeping in mind Kroger's got 2,700 stores in the U.S. And they're suddenly competing with Amazon, whose fresh stores are all including a dash cart, which does many of the same things the Caper cart offers. Caper has been exhibiting at these trade shows now for a couple of years. We've seen them out on the trade show floors. A store near me in Long Island City, Queens, called Food Seller and Company has been using these carts for a while, and apparently are seeing an 18% average basket increase. That's because the cart is you're basically scanning. It's a scan belt enabled cart, although they've got artificial intelligence capabilities that will allow them to recognize the products over time. Can integrate things like additional basket building suggestions. You put in the pasta, they ask, do you have the garlic? Do you have the sauce? That the other thing that they say, the customers really like them, Phil. So that's one story. We're continuing on with the pandemic. This is the last day of the Trump administration, as you guys know. And we're beginning to the retailers are beginning to deal with vaccine rollouts for their employees, most of which have been identified as Group 1B priority recipients, which is a designation that the industry has fought hard for. So far, we've seen companies, including Dollar General, Instacart, this morning, Aldi, saying that they are to be certain that their customers or their employees have the opportunity to get vaccinated. They're giving them up to 4 hours paid time off, flexible schedules for their salaried employees, and make sure they're doing that. What none of the companies are saying so far, Aldi, Dollar General, Instacart, Kroger, who else, is that the vaccines will be required of them, Phil. And that's an interesting question because as of right now, because of the emergency approval of the vaccines, that's something that's probably going to be able to be challenged by people who don't want to take it. The other issue, of course, is that there's such a backup for people who need the vaccine. I think that the retailers probably feel like they don't need to be getting into fights with people who don't want it right now. So that's what's going on the vaccine front, Phil. I figure we're going to be hearing more and more companies doing things like incentivizing their workers to get the vaccines in a country where too many people don't want them.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I want to go back to the Kroger cart for a second. In fact, earlier today, you and I were talking about this, that Kroger, for one, they've been testing carts like this for 25 years, 30 years. I guess my big question is, do we really need the cart anymore when we have this? When we have our iPhone, I actually also have a scale as one of the apps that you can put it on the face of the iPhone and it'll weigh things. And I just wonder with that heavy investment for those carts, whether or not we really need it anymore. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, absolutely. But I don't know if we do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways of going about it, and then there's plenty of stores out there that are using, cell phone technologies. Fairway, New York, for example, we wrote about recently, that's been, doing that checkout. And of course the scan guns at Stop and Shop and so forth go back even further than that. One of the things the card allows you to do is shop with two hands, which is something that your phone can't allow you to do. That's one,
That's a good point.
advantage.
Yep.
The other is, the technology is advanced to a point where, rather than just having kind of a static screen showing you where things are, or, maybe delivering some messages to you using the AI and the location-based technologies and the cloud capabilities and, all that stuff that we have today, you can really soup up a cart in a completely different way. And, a shopping cart is a familiar invention and a thing that, everybody is familiar with using. I think it was invented 85 years ago or something like that. So it is a friendly way of kind of doing this kind of, thing that people might think might be spooky if the shelves are watching you or the ceiling is watching you. So, I think it's got a lot of potential, and it's certainly a cool, sleek looking invention, and most people have used them, like them.
Yeah. So I want to share with you two things, and I'm sure all of you are getting these too. It used to be at the end of the year, November, December, everybody would come out with their trend reports. Now, I'm still getting trend stuff, as I'm sure you are too. But there was a new poll that was just done. 2,000 Americans, 67% are making multiple more achievable micro goals. So the new trend is micro goals because they say that they can do micro goals, smaller goals, easier than they can do big goals like losing weight or getting a new job or whatever. So the 10, I'm not going to go through all 10, but the top 10 micro goals, and this poll was done by one poll on behalf of Freshly Fit. Eating less takeout and fast food was number one. Number two is maintaining your weight. Number three, eating more nutritious lunches. Number four, drinking more water. And number five, taking vitamins. So I also want to read you a heartwarming Facebook post that somebody sent me. The person that sent it to me is Nathan Shinagwa, and he writes, "Today my dad, Larry Shinagwa, would have been 63 years old. His Safeway name tag is one of my favorite tokens to remember him by. My dad wanted to be remembered as a professor and a scholar, which he certainly was. But the time I was most proud of him was when he took a job in the Safeway supermarket produce department after his academic career hit hard times. One day he asked me to come by the store. As he was showing me around, one of the customers said to me, 'Ever since your dad joined, this place has looked amazing.' He beamed, and I was honestly and genuinely very proud of him. He only worked there for a few months, but the experience profoundly changed him. When he took his next professorship, he approached it with a newfound gratitude and humbleness that made his students adore him. He did a lot with his life, but it was his time at Safeway that showed me, exemplified what character really means." Isn't that fabulous? It makes me tear up. I see Christina's tearing up too. Okay, so with that, stop crying. I didn't read it that badly. Jen, talk to us about Albertsons.
Sure. Well, John touched on this last Tuesday, but Albertsons had reported that morning their Q3 financials, and they had identical sales growth of 12.3%, powered by an incredible 225% in digital sales. And CEO Vivek Sankaran in the investor call that followed said, it's clear that our strategy is working, and that's definitely the case. There's just so much going right for Albertsons right now. They had 6 million new households shopping with them in Q3. And it looks like they're retaining most of them. They expect to. And they also have, an ever-growing loyalty program that's like 204.3 million members strong and growing, which is like an over 20% growth for Q3. And these folks are spending like 2.5 times what other people are spending. So even though, everyone's kind of going to the store less, basket sizes are bigger. And other thing, they're making other investments and sort of focusing on other areas that Sankaran thinks will really continue to position them for success. We've talked before about their investment in going into the fresh meals business. There's really sort of a focus on freshness for them. Also investments in what they're calling high return projects. So whether that's store remodels or, a streamlined checkout experience, or even remodels of salad bars that are now, sort of defunct during the pandemic. And then their digital plans are equally impressive. They're investing more than $300 million to accelerate their services and offerings in the digital space. They expanded their Drive Up and Go program in Q3 over 800%. They've now offered that service at 1,181 stores. That's a 231 new location increase for Q3. And they have plans to continue to expand that. And then also, they've been investing in these kind of new technologies like the kiosks, which kind of look like one of those pods, that they can sit in a parking lot. There's one at a Jewel Osco in Chicago, and it's, basically a robot prepares your order. There are 2 temperature zones in this structure, and you can just, scan your phone when you get there, and the robot prepares your order and puts it to the front of the unit, and you collect your items. This was developed by a company called Cleveron out of Estonia. And they said that this takes about 50 seconds to retrieve your order from a kiosk like this, as opposed to 10 minutes to go into the store and collect, an order that you've placed online. So really interesting technologies that they're investing in. It'll be fun to watch where they go next.
Absolutely. And none of us could because of what we do, but wouldn't it have been great to buy some Albertsons stock during the IPO? Because I agree with you. I think that it's just, going to go through the roof. Talking about technology, I had the occasion to meet Marc when he was at Jet. When in the early days when they first, got going and so on. And Christine, you've got some news about Marc Lore.
Marc Lore came out early Friday that he's going to be retiring from his role at Walmart. He has been serving as U.S. e-commerce chief. Previously, of course, he founded Jet.com, which Walmart acquired for $3.3 billion back in 2016. And he served in that chief of U.S. e-commerce role with Walmart since then. Walmart disclosed in a filing on Friday that he would be retiring as of January 31st. He's still going to stay on with the company as an advisor through September. There's nobody who's going to specifically fill that role right now. Walmart took care to emphasize in the filing that as the e-commerce business has been integrated and they've become a true omnichannel company in the past several years, that those businesses are fully integrated. Laura seems like a really interesting guy. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, but previously, he's a serial entrepreneur. He founded companies going back to 2010, one of which Walmart actually acquired for about $500 million back then. So he goes back a ways. He mentioned in a personal LinkedIn post on Friday that coming to Walmart with that e-commerce and serial entrepreneur tech background, they had some quote unquote lively debates during his time there, but he had nothing but fond things to say for Walmart's leadership and expressed gratitude for his time there.
And for $3.5 billion.
Yeah. His retirement will be okay.
It'll be fine. But what's interesting to me is going back to Jen's story about Albertsons. I think that Albertsons has done a much better job than Walmart when it comes to e-commerce. I like Marc. I think that very smart. I think what they were doing with Jet was really, really interesting. And they weren't able to keep that going for a whole variety of reasons, most of which was internal politics. But when I go to Albertsons app, what I love, whether it's online or on my phone, the first thing that pops up is to Jen's point about increasing, by 800% click and collect. The first thing that comes up is, do you want to order online and pick it up? Then the
Right.
second thing is you want to order online and have it delivered. And then the third is you want to just shop in store. But even just having that strategy, I think is just so smart. Talk to us, Christine, about another Walmart test when it comes to home delivery.
Sure. It was kind of a newsy week for Walmart, and it's fascinating what they're doing when you've got such a behemoth as Walmart. When they're always saying 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart. That's a lot of different moving parts. Of course, understatement of the year to incorporate. One of the things they're going to be trying out as a pilot just in Bentonville this spring is a test of smart refrigerated boxes. So these are IoT enabled boxes that would be outside your front door, on your porch, refrigerated with 3 different temperature controlled zones. And they will do delivery to these smart boxes. So there's space within the smart boxes for shelf stable goods, for refrigerated goods, and for frozen goods. They've been working with another company on this. And again, it's just going to be a pilot just in Bentonville for right now. In announcing this test, they said that one of the things they're excited about is theoretically it offers the capability to do 24/7 delivery. There are no plans to start that at this time, but as you're looking forward into 2021 and more people, a lot of us who are fortunate to be working from home right now, as people hopefully start to go back to offices eventually, that changes the equation as far as when you're available to get a gallon of milk delivered, right? So this is something that could allow for, if you are out and about, you can have your frozen food, your milk, whatever, delivered. It's a secure code. The delivery driver is able to unlock the box when he or she gets to the house. And then, of course, you as the consumer are able to unlock it whenever you get home. I actually had the chance on Friday too, and it's for a story that's going to be published later this week, to talk to a couple of their IoT leaders. And they talked about how they've invested in, the smart technology and AI when you're on Walmart.com and putting things in your basket, and in the milliseconds that they're calculating, okay, can we fulfill this delivery in 2 hours? Based on every single thing that you add or subtract from your basket. So it's fascinating. It'll be interesting to see where else they go, this spring, and the further investments and improvements they make. But some interesting things on the tech side at Walmart.
So, John, your memory is probably better than mine, but I want to go back about 20, 25 years ago. It was a California company, one of the first ones to do home delivery of groceries. The name is escaping
What you're
me.
thinking of is the Boston company called Streamline.com.
No.
They're the ones that put the refrigerator in people's garages, and they would
Yeah.
actually give the delivery driver a key.
Yes,
And then
Streamline did it. And a
Yeah.
couple others did it. And basically, it was in your garage. They had an area for dry cleaning, refrigerated area, other things. Their logo had a peach on it. I have a mouse pad.
Homegrocer.com, I think, was.
Yes, Home Grocer.
They were the competitor to Webvan, and Webvan eventually.
Webvan. No, it was Webvan. Yep.
Well, either way, what all of us have talked about, and not to belabor this point, but Kroger doing a one-store experiment in Cincinnati with carts, Albertsons doing a one-store experiment with walk-up pickup lockers in Chicago, Walmart doing its thing in Bentonville with the modern-day milk boxes. All these things are enabled by technology today that's just been available. All of them are really potentially impactful. None of them are really widely rolled out yet. So we'll see, in the next couple months, years, which of these things work, which of them don't.
Yeah. So let's switch to the food service side for a moment. Pat, we keep on talking about how restaurants are struggling. Give us an update. Is it getting any better?
Well, not currently. I think they're waiting for Biden to pass the Restaurants Act, which will hopefully happen. It has a lot of support in Congress, and it's just been stalled for a while. But one of the bright spots for independent restaurants is always Restaurant Week, which happens in the winter and the summer. And it's a promotion where you can get, a special deal on a lunch or dinner usually at a restaurant you wouldn't be able to go to ordinarily because it's too expensive.
Mhm.
So this year, obviously they can't do restaurant week like they normally do in most cities because indoor dining is shuttered. So there, a lot of the cities and their chambers of commerce are switching to a restaurant week to go. So takeout and delivery will be available for $20.21. And that's happening in New York, Kansas City, Chicago, Washington, D.C. Now, Washington is really interesting because they usually have restaurant week during the inauguration every 4 years anyway, but it usually happens this week in January. And they had to postpone it because of all the turmoil in Washington. So it's not starting until next week. But all of them are offering these deals. And some restaurants I usually don't opt in because they're in residential areas or they're, where they wouldn't get a lot of business lunch people are opting in this year because they feel they can attract new customers with these deals. So it's
interesting. Yeah. And what I love about that is it also gives them the opportunity not only to get new customers, but also to stay in business. Because I know so many of them were struggling, even with the takeout side. Jackson, Retail Innovation Labs. We've seen those for a while, but there's a new one coming out with a new twist.
That's right. Couche-Tard up in Canada, the parent company of Circle K convenience stores, is working with McGill University up there to experiment with, it appears to be mostly checkout technologies these days. They're looking at mobile payment checkout and also a frictionless checkout, much the way that Amazon Go works, where you can just walk in and grab what you want and walk out as long as you have your mobile phone, you enter with your phone, that sort of thing. And it's interesting, Circle K has been experimenting with frictionless technology here in the States. In the summer of 2020, they partnered with Standard Cognition to launch some frictionless checkout in some of their stores. They also partnered with MasterCard to do a similar thing at other stores. So it seems like they're, pretty heartily dipping their toes in this water to see what they can make of it.
Yeah, and hopefully it expands beyond. I know that there's been so much on payments, so much innovation there, but give us some more innovation throughout the store. I don't know if you guys are familiar with cooler screens.
Oh, yes.
But this is so cool. I love that.
It really is.
Where it's basically projecting on the doors of the freezer or the refrigerator images. It could be ads, but also it's interactive, so you can actually touch a product and it shows you the nutritional information without having to open that door. So love when we see more innovation throughout the store. So Jen, why don't you give us some good news and wrap us up?
Sure. So Tops Friendly Markets has just launched their Checkout Hunger campaign, which raises money for area food banks. And it actually kicks off on the 24th of January, I believe, and runs through February 13th. But they're starting this year with a very generous donation from a couple in Williamsville, New York, where they're based, of $25,000, wow, which Tops then matched. And, since 2006, Tops, with its Checkout Hunger campaign, has raised over $4.5 million to help fight food insecurity. So that's going on later this week.
Yeah, absolutely great news. And also I want to thank Nathan Shinagwa for sharing your dad's story with us. It makes us very happy to hear these things about our industry. So to all of you, thank you all for joining us today. Again, check out our archives on Winsight Grocery Business, on Restaurant Business, on CSP, on Supermarket Guru, and we will be back here next Tuesday, same time, same bat station. And until then, have a great week, wear a mask, and keep your fingers crossed that everything goes really, really well tomorrow during the inauguration.